Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Georgia CTSA Community Engagement, Community Academic Research Pilot Program Information Teleconference Agenda. We're glad that you could make it this afternoon. We're going to first get started with welcomes, and I will let the chairs, the Georgia CTSA Community Engagement, start us off.
Thank you so much, Dr. Davis. Hi, everyone. I'm Tabia Akintobi. I'm professor and chair of Department of Community Health and Preventive Medicine at Morehouse School of Medicine, and I'm the Morehouse School of Medicine lead for the Georgia Community Engagement Program, and you'll learn more about the program and the funding opportunity soon. UGA partners.
Good afternoon. I'm Allison Penn. I'm Associate Dean for Extension and Outreach at the University of Georgia, and I am also the co-chair for the Georgia Clinical Translational Science Alliance Community Engagement Committee, and I'm delighted to see everyone here today.
And so we will certainly introduce other members of our team when we share a bit about the Georgia CTSA Community Engagement Program. So there are many others who make the program happen. And so I'll share a brief overview about the Community Engagement Program. And then we will jump into detailing the funding opportunity announcement. So just in terms of how we will manage the day or our hour together, we ask that you please feel free to put your questions in the chat. We will periodically check the chat to take your questions, but just know that at the end of our overview of the funding opportunity announcement, we will also ask you to come off mute, and we'll have more time for questions and answers that we'll facilitate. Important to note is that we are recording this session. So if you want to review something that you may not have caught, or you want to share the opportunity or the recording with others, just know that that recording will be posted on the Georgia CTSA website. And I'll ask Dubem if you're able to put that link in the chat, so that recording will live there up to and through the application submission, which is not until January of 2024. So we ask that you please stay on mute just so we can get as clear a recording as possible, but please do use the chat to post your questions, and then we will have a live facilitated Q&A. So Dr. Davis, if you would please allow me to share my screen.
Maybe 1 second. Some technical issues.
And while we are here, just because, I know it takes a lot on a Friday afternoon, usually the things we do on a Friday afternoon are those things we have to or that we really want to. So if you can put your name and your affiliation in the chat, whatever that might be, that would be great, just so that while we are a virtual community today, we can get to know each other just a little bit. So your name and your affiliation, organization you represent.
Dr. Akintobi, you should be allowed to share.
Great, thank you so much. So I'm just going to share just a little information for those who might not know about the Georgia CTSA, and particularly the Community Engagement Program. I'm going to make sure that my slides are in the right mode. If folks can give me a thumbs up or come off mute and say, no, it's not in the right mode, I'd appreciate it.
Looks great, Dr. Akintobi.
Thank you so much. So the community engagement program is one of many programs and functions of the Georgia CTSA. And the Georgia CTSA is designed to really support the ways that research is moved from the bench to clinical settings or in communities so that it can be translated into ways that we can improve health equity for communities and patient groups that need it the most. And so that shows up in many different ways. And so certainly more details about the Georgia CTSA can be found at the Georgia CTSA website. And again, I'd ask Dubem or Adrian to include that link in the chat, please. So the community engagement program is one of the central required programs of any CTSA, and the Georgia CTSA is no exception. It includes academic partners, and on this slide, you can see those of us that represent, each of us representing the 4 academic partners. I representing Morehouse, Dr. Penn representing UGA, Drs. Elliott and Dr. Anand, who are not here today, but represent Emory and Georgia Tech. But more important for us is that we are governed by a community steering board who you see at the top of this org chart. Nikki Randall is our chair, and she represents leadership actually in policy and health advocacy. And Dr. Teresa Jacobs, who's the vice chair, works with federally qualified health centers. And for those who may not know, these centers are designed to serve at low or no cost marginalized or minoritized populations experiencing higher hospitalization, illness, and death across the state of Georgia. The board also includes members who represent the older adults, rural communities or organizations representing rural health interests. We have urban and other organizations that reflect different demographics that allow us to be a resource for communities as well as academic organizations who are trying to conduct or develop partnerships to address health issues in the state of Georgia. You can see on this org chart that there are a number of other members represented by those who are on the Zoom as well. On the UGA side or part of our partnership, Dr. Ali Berg and Dr. Courtney Brown. Many on the Morehouse School of Medicine part of the house include Adrian Proler, who's a community health worker, Gail McCrae, who's a community health advocate, Dr. Kimberly Davis, who really is one of the central administrators and directors of the program, and other folks you see that are here, including Dubem Okoye, who's phenomenal. He works with all of us. He's at Morehouse and is a student at Emory. So we like to partner and collaborate towards getting this work done. But really central to our efforts is the Community Steering Board. Just really quickly, and we'll record this again and share these slides, but our first aim is related to ensuring that the community engagement program reflects statewide leadership and really service in advancing translational research, not just so that these efforts support strong research, but that they move beyond research and really support applying community engaged research principles and best practices. And so we do that through this board, and through the link that you hopefully have seen in the chat, you can actually submit a request to the steering board if you're thinking about an idea, if you're wanting to collaborate with a particular community and need guidance, or potentially want to work with community health workers or cooperative extension agents, which are in every county in the state of Georgia. The Community Steering Board is your path towards potentially answering your questions, getting linked to other partners that are doing great work or that you'd like to do great work with. And this is just some of what we've done recently. Again, We'll have this recorded, but we've been involved. Some of you may have been involved in the Community Health Workers Day at the Capitol earlier this year. There's a lot that Drs. Berg, Dr. Brown, and Dr. Penn have done to really promote cooperative extension agents and their important role. And we've tried to work also to advance the importance of CHWs and cooperative extension efforts in supporting research and community engaged health prioritization, but also action. And so some of this information, if you go to the CTSA website, you'll see as well. We present, we publish together, but the we is not just those of us at Emory, Morehouse, Georgia Tech, and UGA. In a number of these opportunities, which we would love to include you in, there are community partners who we think are important to telling the story of how we do community engagement better, or are led by them in it. So those are among the opportunities that are open to you. We'd love to talk with you about it, whether or not you choose to apply or subsequently get funded through a pilot project. We have other projects that we're involved in, and one of them is Georgia SEAL, the Community Engaged Alliance Against COVID-19 Disparities. And if you stay tuned and stay engaged, there's so much that you learn about opportunities to be engaged in programs, research, interventions that we believe matter not just scientifically, but also matter in terms of addressing critical health equity response in the state of Georgia. Our second aim is related to increasing the capacities, not just of community leaders, but we know academic researchers and partners oftentimes have not known how to establish a partnership, or what investment of time, respect, trust, and trustworthiness needs to be established in developing a partnership with a community or academic partner. And so we work to train researchers on how to do that, but based on that bolded aim that requires all students in that particular Master's of Science in Clinical Research program to understand what community engagement is. And you see some of the other workshops that certainly we'd like for you to take advantage of. We actually have one that we're working on coming up in January, focused on advocacy and advocacy training. We know the importance of advocacy, but not many are trained or understand what it takes to be effective in it. And we also are going to be working on a training focused on understanding the dual importance of community competence, cultural competence, but also cultural humility. Whether you are a community or academic partner, those two concepts are important but different, and how they really are practiced in partnership are important to understand and apply. And really quickly, where we are now in training and providing opportunities is we have that course, but more importantly, and I think why you are here, is to learn about ways to potentially get a pilot grant funded through the Georgia CTSA. We also have training that we offer based on the demand on how to get your grant ready, such that reviewers understand the leadership that you have in your community, the fact that you've had your ears to the ground and to the pulse of what's going on, and how you can get that application funded. So with respect to our pilot funding, we've awarded over $350,000 since the CTSA began to fund different types of projects. And we'll ask Gail to talk about those here soon. And what you see today is the very first step, and that is this teleconference for you to learn more about the funding opportunity, to ask your questions. And since we're going to be getting into the timeline a little bit later, I will stop sharing my screen and we can actually jump in to going over the funding opportunity announcement. So if you can share that Georgia CTSA CE team, we will dive in, and we look forward to hearing your questions as you review it with us. So the purpose of this pilot program is to provide funding for not just the conduct of a research project, but also to provide important funding for a first phase, which you learn more about, which is a partnership building as well as the research planning process between community and campus partners. Through this pilot program, it's important to note that we expect that a community partner be involved with an academic researcher at one of the 4 partnering institutions that are Emory, Morehouse, University of Georgia, or Georgia Tech. And either can apply, but in either case, there has to be the other partner who is involved as an equal, equitable partner in that application. And so,
Dr. Akintobi, can I interrupt you with a question that there, someone asked for the link to the application. Can you point that out to someone? Or do you want me to hold all the questions to the end?
well, we'll pause for questions, but there should be a link in the application, in the actual PDF that you received, but we can still drop it in the link in the chat as well. So if a team member can drop that link in the chat, and then as we go through this, we will actually pass the link that you should be able to access in the PDF. And if that's not so, please do let us know in the chat. But thank you, Adrienne. Before we get into the phases related to the funding, which will span 16 months, I'd like for Gail McCrae, who's been a part of the CTSA since inception, to just say a word about the different funding mechanisms that we've offered and why they were important to really supporting community and campus partnerships across the state. Gail?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited. So many of you are here this afternoon. So over the years, and I guess it's been, what, 15 years now? And we were called something different initially, but all of it is about translational science. And we hope you'll kind of focus on translating from the lab to the clinic to the curbside or community. We've had opportunities through funding community-based organizations. We continue to do capacity building, as Dr. Akintobi showed you on one of the slides, through training of on both the community side and the academic side. We do grant writing academies, have done grant writing academies, grant writing, parts of the grant, taking the grants in different segments so that you can learn what needs to happen at each point, including evaluation. Sometimes the sections that are more difficult than others are more challenging to some than others. We do webinars. And so please do stay engaged with us over time. We will have many opportunities for your engagement, and we hope you will stay with us.
Thank you so much, Gail. So moving through this, we funded dissemination projects, we've funded research projects, and other types. But what we want you to be clear on is that while we really entertain applications from eligible organizations, and we're going to get into eligibility criteria shortly, we are also particularly interested in those that focus on addressing issues related to maternal mortality or their risk factors, addressing issues in and with implications for rural health, or those that prioritize the translation of novel digital technologies. And so the resounding theme, even though these are priorities, is that there should be an emphasis on addressing and advancing health equity, which is the explicit theme, which is wonderful, of the Georgia CTSA. So when we think about health equity, we're thinking about the conditions the systems or the context that help us to understand disproportionate hospitalization, illness, death, access, and opportunity. And so in whatever your submission is, we're really looking at you being clear in demonstrating the implications of what you are proposing with your partner on understanding and contributing to addressing a health inequity or advancing health equity. So if you can scroll down just a little bit, just to detail a bit more the phases. So the first phase, and this is after acceptance of the application, a review of the applications, with the applications being reviewed by both community leaders and campus leaders that are connected to the community steering board that I described earlier. We do that to ensure that this really is about two things that matter. We want research that has strong potential, but we also want partnerships for research that demonstrate equity and those other realities in terms of partnership and progress that have community relevance. So do know that your applications will be reviewed by both types of reviewers. That will happen soon after the applications are due in mid-January. And once we make the announcement, the first bit of funding will be from March until October of next year. And we expect that you will be working on your plan. You will be developing a summary of the proposed pilot project. You will get TA from us in doing that. And the expectation is that you will also work together to prepare an institutional review board application. And so we'll detail that further. You'll not be alone in the process. But the reason why we have that first phase as distinct from the second, which begins in November of next year, is that we want to build in enough time for even existing partners to work together in planning the proposed project, getting the IRB submitted, certainly with our support. And then that next phase would be when the pilot project would actually happen. And so we look forward to your questions related to that. But that really allows time that we've learned historically is important to both plan and partner, get the IRB in, which is a requirement for all of the grants that are funded through this CTSA, and then to actually begin to do the work. If you can scroll down, please. Thank you so much. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Berg, who's been with us for a few years now and has seen this project evolve, to talk a little bit about the eligibility criteria and what goes into the application. Dr. Berg?
Thank you, Dr. Akintobi. It's nice to have all of you with us here today. We are excited that this is being released and that you are expressing interest by showing up today. So for the eligibility criteria, applicants or lead contacts must be in one of the following categories. So you can be either a community-based organization or a university faculty. And within each of those, there are a couple of things that you want to think about. So community-based organizations must be a not-for-profit 501c3. They must express interest in partnering or have already partnered with faculty affiliated with either Morehouse School of Medicine, Emory University, University of Georgia, or Georgia Tech for the proposed project, and serve communities within the state of Georgia. So while we would love to help the whole nation, we want to make sure that we are focused here in the state of Georgia and that you have the support that you need through this partnership with an academic institution. From the university side, these can be faculty from any of the Georgia CTSA affiliated institutions, Emory University, Morehouse School of Medicine, Georgia Tech, and University of Georgia. University faculty must have expressed interest in partnering with or have already partnered with a CBO serving communities within the state of Georgia for the proposed project. And then faculty must either be junior faculty with limited current or past research support as a project director or principal investigator, or an established investigator who have a fully engaged community organization as a partner, or a postdoctoral fellow with a supporting senior principal investigator or mentor. And so you have to have both of these partners, but either the community-based organization or the university faculty can take the lead on the application. And we want you to already be in touch as partners. So we note here that you either have to express interest in or have already partnered with your partner. And that's really because we know that developing partnerships takes time. And there's really not time within this applicate or this grant timeframe to find the partner. So we do want you to come to the table with the partner. So those are the two categories that you must be in order to be eligible for this grant opportunity. And with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Dr. Akintobi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Berg. And we will pause now to see if there are any questions or comments from the chat. You can see there, I think someone was looking for the link. Thank you, Dr. Brown, for putting it in the chat. If someone also has, I'm assuming you have the funding opportunity so that you were able to log on, but do let us know if that link is working so that we can just check it. We know that technology can actually be fickle. It's not as objective as we always think it is. So let us know if this link location answers the question, and certainly the link was also shared in the chat. So I'm going to take one question here, and then we can unmute briefly before I turn it over to Dr. Davis to just talk about the contents of that application. So the question that came in from Mohammed is, can a research team have both junior and senior faculty members? Yes, they can. Keep in mind, though, that whether junior and or senior faculty, that there also must be a partnering community-based organization. And when we say partnering, we mean that that community partner is equally positioned as a co-lead on the project. So they should not solely be there to support recruitment. But when we think about advancing team science, we think of community partners as being the MPI or the MPI or multi-PI of a project like this. So certainly, unlike other pilot projects where the focus is solely on junior faculty, there can be senior faculty that are a part of this. But most importantly, just attend to those details that Dr. Berg just shared, and that is that there must be both a community and a campus or academic partner. There's another question that has come through, and that says, how do we discover what option for faculty we can approach for partnering if we don't have a direct established faculty partner? So I appreciate that question, and I think that is a bit of what Dr. Berg just described. Certainly, the CTSA Community Engagement Program is designed in many other ways to facilitate new partnerships. We have a database, which we'll soon be refreshing, that you can look at for partners. You can come to our steering board to get guidance if you're looking for partnerships. But for this particular funding opportunity, we've learned over time that new partnerships take more than definitely 16 months. And so if 16 months is the time through which to plan, get an IRB in, and then do a project, that relatively short time frame, which is what we were able to extend for this funding opportunity, that we really do need to have those that have an existing partnership. And so for this particular funding opportunity, that is the focus. Now, through the broader program, we have grant writing academies and also other workshops and ways you can access the program if you are trying to identify a partner to be ready for next time or for other funding opportunities, which increasingly are expecting to see a history of partnership. keep in mind that when we say partnership, it doesn't mean that you have to have a 5 or 10-year history, but a relationship is one that we're looking for, and how you're able to demonstrate through some of your narrative, the ways that you're not starting your partnership because you are applying for the project, but it could be that you've done outreach events together, or other ways that you've collaborated, even though this might be your first research partnership. So I hope I answered that question. There's a question that came up, and Dr. Berger, Dr. Penn, I'd love for you to answer this, because I think that one of you may have suspected that this question might come up. Laura Evans asked, do UGA extension agents satisfy the faculty partner requirement?
Holly, do you want to take that?
Sure. So thank you for that question, Laura. And so you are correct that the extension office and extension agents do fall under the university side of things with regard to this application. Whether or not the extension agent should actually serve as the principal investigator probably is a discussion that should happen with that agent's program development coordinator and a specialist in that particular area as to whether or not that is an appropriate avenue for them. So I would encourage you to reach out to whomever your program development coordinator is, and then talk with a specialist about the appropriateness of you serving as a principal investigator on an application.
Yeah, the reason I asked is that we're a rural community. I'm with Family Connection. We have a strong partnership with our extension agents. And rural communities tend to have those established partnerships with the extension agents, not with faculty at a university in an urban area. So that's why I asked about that.
Right. And we appreciate those partnerships, and those have a great deal of value. And if you need to know the name of a specific person to connect with, if you will contact either me or Allie, and we will put our email in the box, we're happy to make that connection for you. And the reason we say that is sometimes our extension faculty already have a fairly full plate, and we don't want to make decisions on their behalf. But that is very much a partnership we would love to encourage.
Dr. Bergen, Dr. Penn, thank you for those responses. And the great news is that these applications are not due till January, so you have time to do the homework to get those questions answered, Laura, and again, through us to talk through eligibility and other issues. So there's another question that has come in. Do we need to submit a pilot proposal and IRB approval along with the initial application? So Dr. Davis is going to go through the elements of your proposal narrative. So you do have to propose have a preliminary proposal of your pilot, because we need to know what we would be ultimately funding. But IRB approval, and that's a great question because for some other funding mechanisms, you do have to have that done. We're not expecting the IRB approval. That IRB application would be a part of your phase 1. So yes, the proposal, and Dr. Davis will go through those elements and will answer questions as they come in about the actual submission, but you do not have to have IRB approval to submit in January. Great question. Another question has come in regarding the funds available and budget. Can we use funds to carry a percentage of salary of the faculty PI or the personnel here? And maybe you meant to say like coordinators, or maybe as a type of staff person. Yes, you can apply funds to pieces of salary. So that is an allowable cost. I believe, Dr. Davis, because it's going to take time to do this. So Dr. Davis, maybe you can quickly answer that, and then I'll ask you to please proceed with talking about the application requirements.
Yes, so as far as budget and covering personnel, it is allowable. So when you submit your application, there's a budget piece that goes with it, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but covering personnel is allowable. And I'll go ahead and start with the application requirements. The first part of the application, a cover letter needs to be included in your grant proposal. And I won't read through all of this because you all have the announcement, but just the basic things, contact information, the type of applicant, and just a statement of you applying. The proposal narrative, similar to other grant applications, there can be no more than 5 pages. Now, this just includes the proposal narrative. This does not include the cover letter or the budget. As far as font size, Times New Roman or Arial, 11 point or 12 point. In the narrative, it should also include a description of the community that you are going to be serving, how you're going to help address disparity, and all of the other points. I won't read them, but you can see the points that should be included. In addition to the proposal narrative, and I'll scroll down, you'll see what's required but not included in the 5-page limit. Again, a reminder, with the 5-page limit, that only includes the proposal narrative. So there will need to be a timeline of your proposed project, a budget and budget justification, COBs for those organizations that identify as 501c3, the resumes or CVs from 2 team members who are going to be more so like the key personnel, a letter of commitment from the faculty or community partner, and letters of recommendations reflecting the community campus research partnership, if applicable. Now, as far as the selection process, a selection committee appointed by the Community Engagement Steering Board will review all of the proposals. And we are going to be using this point system that equals 100 points. We'll look at the background and rationale, and that's 25 points. The experience in leadership, and that's 20 points. The interest in the community engaged research partnership, which will be worth 20 points. The organizational capacity, 20 points. And the budget and the budget justification, which is 15 points. Some important dates and timeline. Today is the grant application informational teleconference. Thank you for attending. The letter of intent is due on November the 17th. The application submission deadline, as Dr. Akintobi mentioned, is January the 19th, 2024. Those who are selected should receive the award notification on February the 15th. And the anticipated project start date for phase 1 is March the 1st. Moving down to the letter of intent. Now, the letter of intent is recommended, but it's not required. It's strongly recommended, but not required. This letter should be submitted by November the 17th via email, and you can see the email in the application prcinfo@msm.edu. And within the letter, make sure that you include the title of the project, description of the community identified health disparity. So about 2 paragraphs. And again, it's strongly recommended but not required. And it's not binding. The application submission, there's a link, and I'll scroll up really quickly within the, right here. You're going to use this link to apply and submit your application. It's due January the 19th. It must be received by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, electronic version. And we ask that you submit all of your documents in one PDF document, and save the document with your organization name. And again, we've talked about this, the proposal narrative template and the points and what needs to be included in that. So just a little bit more detail. We want to provide you with a sample proposal page. This is just an example worksheet. So you need to provide a detailed budget of phase 1 and phase 2. So the question before, asking about personnel, you can include that information right in your budget, and also in your budget justification. Supplies might be a line that you have travel, contractual costs, if you're going to be using a recruiter, a facilitator, or whatever kind of consult that pertains to your study. I think we'll go to the chat and see if there are any additional questions.
I'll take the latest one. And then I think we do need to clarify that budget question, because depending on the applicant, the truth is that Morehouse, Emory, UGA, or Georgia Tech will be included, right? So if it's a community-based organization, then the academic partner would potentially be a consultant. If it's a Morehouse, Emory, UGA, or Georgia Tech applicant, certainly salaries can be covered. So we'll clarify and update the funding opportunity announcement.
I can take the next question. It says, do we get a response after our letters of intent are submitted, and whether to move forward with the submission or not? We typically use those just to start screening about how many applicants we're going to get, and so we know how many reviewers we need. So while we will try to give you a courtesy email that says, thank you so much for submitting your letter, it's not a process that we're going to use to screen and say yes or no, move forward. But we do like getting those letters of intent because it does let us know approximately how many applications to expect.
Dr. Berg, that was a great response, especially because LOIs are not binding. We could have a lot of folks that don't submit a letter but are going to apply. And we don't want to be unfair to them or to those who submit a letter by unduly kind of letting some know that they can move forward and not. Our assumption is that all applications will adhere to the guidelines of the funding opportunity announcement. And of course, that's what we're going to be using to screen applicants, and not just for the application, but also for attention to details surrounding eligibility, etc. So thank you, Dr. Burke. So we would love to hear any other questions. If folks would like to unmute themselves and share any other questions that you have for now. Of course, please know that questions can be submitted up until the application, which is all the way in January. And I realize there's a slippery slope. January will be here shortly, but you can certainly follow up with us with questions you have after this call. Anyone have questions? Please do unmute.
I have a question.
Please.
Thank you for having me today. This is Shara Kennedy. I go by Kennedy. And I wanted to know about, are there opportunities to come in and basically, if we already have been working on our proposal and our documentation before the deadline, to have it somewhat reviewed to make sure that we're on the right track and that all the information is being uploaded correctly or to be reviewed prior to our submission.
Thank you for that question, Kennedy. So just aligned with our process, certainly we have other mechanisms through which, especially our grant writing academy, where the elements of your application can be of a grant application can be reviewed. We can entertain questions, but to be fair to all applicants, we wouldn't be able to review any sections ahead of time. But definitely if you have questions about what should be included or not, we can certainly be resources for that. And for those of you who ever applied for grants frequently, you don't even get that type of support. You can just ask questions via an impersonal email box, and you hope they answer before the grant is due. So while we can't look at components of the application, we can be a resource in terms of questions you have along the way. And others, if you have comments to add to that, please do. Thank you, Kennedy. Other questions or comments for now? So we will be recording this session, but before we do break, we certainly always want to share any upcoming opportunity. Actually, I see one in the chat. Other members of the team, can you read, or are you comfortable with taking that question?
I can take that question. I think it says, in a situation where a founding member is a faculty, what category would be best to apply under? CBO or university faculty, and do we need an additional partner? So let me make sure I understand the question. So you're saying that you are, as a university faculty, are the founder of a community-based organization?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. That's a really great question, and I had not thought of that situation yet before. So, are you're presently employed as faculty?
I'm not the faculty. I'm working in the organization, so I'm just trying to understand the situation. She's an associate professor or assistant professor.
Okay. Dr. Akintobi, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that whoever the applicant is, they need to clearly identify and justify their eligibility as a community-based organization versus an academic researcher. So, you may be uniquely qualified because as an academic researcher or faculty, you could have community partners, but you certainly couldn't partner with your own organization. So I'm happy to take questions offline, but I think you would need to clearly identify a community-based organization or faculty affiliation. If you think about the spirit of this funding opportunity announcement, the fact that there needs to be a community partner and a faculty or academic at an academic institution, we are doing that to partner organizations that have unique lenses, each independent and unique lenses to planning and conducting a community-based research project. So certainly, if you have those dual identities, we can't expect you to have both of those lenses in one partner. So if you look at the intent of this funding opportunity announcement, you really need to be thoughtful about which affiliation will be primary and make sure that the other is not a member of the same organization. So you're in a unique situation. And we can certainly take the question offline because we wouldn't want you to waste time and not be eligible, or be eligible and not get it clarified. So I don't know if that helps at all, but with the grant not being due till January, please do reach out to us so we can get more context.
Will do, thank you.
So we are always looking to share opportunities to engage, serve, get capacity building through the community engagement program. So I'm going to ask Adrian Proler or Dubem, depending on what you decided, to share a couple of events that you may, and opportunities you may have heard about that are coming up here quickly. And so we always want to share these. Just as you heard about this, there are others that you may have heard about or that you will introduce you to. Adrian?
Yes, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So when the APHA comes to Atlanta to Morehouse School of Medicine, together with the National Community-Based Organization Network, we get together to honor unsung heroes. And so that's people who do the work without necessarily being noticed, without necessarily being getting paid for their work. So, and we all know that there's those of us who work with community, there are so many times that the person who sits quietly in the back of the room and is always volunteering doesn't necessarily get the recognition. So we'd like to ask you to really spread the word about this award, and also nominate, if you have any ideas of someone who you think would be good for this award. Now, we've extended the we've extended the application deadline already, but I want to show you it's to midnight tonight. So I apologize for the late notice, and I hope that you might have already seen this because we've been sharing it like crazy. But I wanted to offer this group, or we wanted to offer this group another chance. So it's a really simple application. I'm taking you through it. So 200 words on the work they performed, impact on the community. It's very, very, very simple. That's it. So if you could, I'm going to put the link in the chat. There it is. And please help us spread the word so we can honor our unsung heroes. Thank you.
Adrian, thank you for sharing that. Can you also share, if you have it close by, the information related to the Writing Institute that's coming up? And if not, we can certainly just more generally share it and put the link in the chat.
Yeah, Dr. Davis or Dubem, can you share that?
And as that's coming up, everyone, the other important practice that we try to advance, and just so you know, also those communities unsung heroes are from anywhere in the state of Georgia. So please, while the American Public Health Association meeting is happening in Atlanta, the event doesn't require APHA registration. If you want to nominate someone, the event is happening on Sunday, November 11th, and we'll figure out how we can make sure they once they're selected, they have the opportunity to participate. This learning community for writing, dissemination, and reviewing, if you can scroll down just a bit, and if you can put the link in the chat, Dubem or Adrian, this event is happening on Saturday, November 11th. And it's to really provide the skills for community-based organizations and researchers on how to advance equity. How do you write about the work that you're doing together, whether it's in academic journals or more broadly? And there are more opportunities now for community-based organizations and community residents to really advance the art and science of the type of research and information that goes into journals. And so those articles related to talking about community engaged research should involve, we believe, those community partners who made it possible. And so we're collaborating again with the Community-Based Public Health Caucus, and more importantly, with a journal called Progress in Community Health Partnerships. It's the only, or probably the highest ranked journal out of Johns Hopkins University Press that focuses on really promoting community-driven and led research and related practice and action and telling those stories. And so you'll get a lot of resources and skills on how to do that equitably, speaking of advancing equity. And so we invite you to register. The information is in the chat. We look forward to seeing you there. Free event with national community and academic leaders who have navigated the challenges on how to do that. And hopefully you'll get some skills and tools that you can use. Please register today. It's almost at capacity, and we would love to see you there. So we're so grateful that you all made the time today. We look forward to answering any questions as you get your applications together. Have a safe weekend, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you, Georgia CTSA team, and thank you, everyone. Bye.